So, everybody, welcome. This is episode 32 of my podcast. And today I'm very pleased to welcome CSY Architects, who are based in Dalkeith in Scotland. I welcome both Gavin and Douglas, who are both directors of the business. And they are, from what I understand, CSY Architects has been going since 2020, is that right? And it's a merger of a couple of other businesses, is that right?
That's maybe the shorthand.
Yeah.
That's a short. Yeah, there's a much longer story to be told, but
That's what we're here for. That is what we're here
uh,
for. Yeah.
and it kind of depends on which kind of angle you come in from, if you like. So yes, we do have a base in Dalkeith, but we also have a base in Shields, in Berwick, and in Kirkcaldy.
Okay.
So once upon a time, and again, I'm even this is oversimplifying things a little. Each of these bases was a separate practice.
Okay.
Um, so and so saying 2020 is when CSY began
Yep.
is accurate in the sense that that's when we became CSY, but all of those other practices already existed, and the oldest of those was actually the one based in Shields, which is Cameron's, and that was formed in 1963.
Okay.
So in some ways, it's a really, we carry that heritage and we carry that legacy. And so quite a well-established presence certainly in the borders around Shields and beyond. But in other ways, going to saying 2020s when we started means that we're actually quite a new business, and they were quite sort of forward-looking. And as much as we were always sort of telling this story, this complicated story about how all these practices came together, we are also trying to kind of explain to the market, to the world,
Yeah.
who we are now, and what we're looking forward to the future. But we can't help but continually talk about the backstory because it does matter. It
Oh,
matters
yeah.
in terms of our sort of collective personality as a firm, that we have created something and one of our little catchphrases is that we've created something greater than the sum of its parts.
Yes.
So all the different expertise and all the different background and all the different local knowledge that comes from that history being brought together, making one big team that works collectively together, kind of is the DNA of what CSY is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the other sort of key thing that we talk about a lot is being we're a practice that's values led.
Yeah.
So not of course we're proud of our work, and of course we're proud of our projects, and there's lots of nice examples of cool designs that we've done. But what we really care about is we care about delivering projects for people. And so in some cases, some of the projects that are the most satisfying to us actually don't make it onto the website because of the nature of what they are. So if we're for example, doing alterations to a house to make sure that it's freely accessible to a kid who has physical impairments,
Hmm.
that's a real project I'm thinking of when I say that.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite projects of all time, but it won't make it on the website because of the nature of what it is. So caring about what we do, caring about the people we do it for, is something is a sort of value that we share.
Yeah.
And I think I'd say that in fact the reason that these particular four practices came together is because we share those values.
Did
Yeah,
each founding partner come from a similar background as all of you? You came from perhaps a residential background, or you've all been practicing architecture for the same sort of time, apart from obviously the original business that was founded in 1963, I think you said.
yeah. So I suppose again it depends on what point in the timeline you're referring to. If you take CSY as the kind of 2020 point of view, then yeah, Douglas and I are the founding kind of partners, if you like, and our background is that basically we were the first two people that we met each other first day of uni at the Edinburgh College of Art in the year 2000. So
Yep.
and been kind of friends ever since, and now business partners. So it's and we finished college, we both worked in separate places and kind of had our kind of own careers, and Douglas set up his own practice, which I'm sure he'll talk to, and he grew that to a point. And then when we came together, begun discussions in about 2018, 2019, it was very much on that kind of caring about people as a start. It was behind all of our kind of practice values is our friendship, and that's something that almost comes first, because at the end of the day, that's kind of the connection with people is kind of all you've got,
Absolutely.
So it's and by taking that as the starting point ethos, we like to hope that kind of filters through to all the staff. It's why we chose to make the business an employer ownership trust, and it's that kind of shared reward, shared effort, shared experience is kind of key.
Yeah.
And I think it's only going to come with the development of AI and everything. It's only become all the more important is that people relationship is actually the kind of what makes the journey through architecture, doing a project, kind of actually all the more enjoyable and relatable. So so our backgrounds were similar, and if you go back to the founding partner, Duncan Cameron, he kind of started in housing and worked for Peter Wormersley, obviously the famous Scottish architect, and then set up himself. So it's and grew the practice, and from there. So yeah.
And you're having the company ethos that you mentioned about. Obviously, you two are friends from uni, back in 2000. Obviously, uni in 2000 makes you very young blokes in my eyes, but I bet you don't get told that a lot.
No,
But,
no,
No,
no.
yeah.
Okay.
No, the grey gives it away a bit, I think. Yeah.
well, based on that, I think I've got 5 or so years on you, so you are young in my eyes. But
Okay.
but what about then? Obviously, you'd started these discussions in 2018. The whole employee-owned trust is really interesting because I'm hearing more practices go down that path now. That was a conscious decision to do from day one, or is that something relatively more recent?
Well, it was kind of, it was conscious from the beginning in terms of basically when Douglas and I started the discussions, it was about, I was at the point of working for Cameron's where I was working on a kind of succession plan and, thinking, okay, you could do that yourself. But I very quickly came to the conclusion that doing this all yourself is just no fun, and a very lonely way of working if you're going to try and grow something beyond a kind of a certain scale.
Yeah,
And Doug had been growing his business successfully, and but was also kind of well, I'll let you talk to your experience, Doug, but it was coming together to make things easier for each other, and that through that discussion it then was, well, if we're doing this together, then actually we can't be successful without our staff. So it's kind of,
no,
let's try and recognise that in this new vision, and the 50-50 split was very much a conscious decision in saying, okay, you need business leaders, you need someone to lead the business and have a strategy and grow it. Your managing board, if you like. But then you can't do it without your team, and so
absolutely.
that 50-50 split is basically, that felt it's the fair approach for everybody.
Yeah,
And then for the kind of succession plan for the previous directors, there's then the kind of the incentives in terms of kind of tax allowances and stuff for the succession. So that means it obviously makes it more affordable for doing that, because you're not factoring in extra
yeah,
tax and stuff like this.
of
So
course.
so yeah, it very much was a conscious decision. We're both kind of have a bit of a social enterprise background as well, and that is, it's business with, as Doug says, caring about people and the places that you work in, and that's where it comes from. Yeah.
Of course, I've just thought as you've been talking as well. These initial talks then led you to 2020 when you decided to start the business in its new guise, as you were. That's when COVID hit, isn't it? So
Yeah.
yeah, so that must have thrown a spanner in the works.
Well, that's an interesting. It's not an insignificant piece of information. Yeah. Weirdly, so bear in mind it had been about 2 years in the making before that.
Yeah,
So we'd been lots of talks and we had been collaborating closely, although we were separate firms still. We
yeah,
were still kind of sharing work and so on. So there was already it was in development, if you like, leading to that, and it was also, I guess, the friendship thing
yeah,
made that all of that possible in some ways because when you get into the sort of drier, anyone who's got any experience of doing mergers and acquisitions, uh, the legals and so on, and how that works,
yeah,
um, it can actually grind you right down and slow things down and make things not happen, if you
yeah,
like. So and in the mix there, we're trying to we're having to come to arrangements around paying out the people who previously owned these practices and so on. So what held that through was the friendship. So it was saying to each other, we are going to get there. We trust each other completely.
yeah,
Um, and I don't think I could trust another business partner in the same way. Like that's what allowed us to just press on
yeah,
and say we will get there. We just need to. If we start with that high level principle, um, then all of the mess or whatever we might be dealing with down here, we can sort of have faith we will resolve this.
yeah,
Whereas if in the absence of something like that, I would imagine that that mess could actually kind of you could get stuck in it.
yeah, absolutely.
So when 2020 hit, by the time we got to 2020, all of these practices had been collaborating very closely, almost behaving as if they were one
Yeah,
already.
yeah,
Um, Although it was kind of like, deciding which logo should go in a drawing, and making sure we were actually clear about which project belonged to which practice and so on.
yeah,
Um, so when 2020 hit and COVID hit, weirdly, there's a weird story to be told there in that there's a bit of a silver lining for us. Because
okay,
despite everything I just said, um, we were still coming from, at that time, three practices because the fourth is much more recent um, that joined. There was still a degree of, I've worked for Cameron's for however many years, and this is how we do things, and me and so who's we're used to working a certain way, kind of thing,
yeah,
which is potentially different from someone who comes from one of the other practices and so on. So when we suddenly everyone's working from home, suddenly we're all on Teams,
mm,
and suddenly it's 28 or however many it was at the time, little faces on the screen.
yeah,
It's not the guy next to you that you're used to working to the whole time. It's
yeah,
everyone.
yeah,
And so we were having at least once a week, possibly more than once a week, the whole team all on the same screen. And we were saying, look, we're going to have to change how we work. And however anyone maybe previously worked, it's not to say any of it's right or wrong. We don't even have to have that conversation.
yeah,
We're just going to we're just going to say from now on, this is how we're going to work.
yeah,
So that's the weird silver lining is that it weirdly helped to create the sense that we were all one big practice.
yeah,
And then obviously since then we've come back into using offices, but a lot of that's holds.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I remember the day where it's like, okay, everyone's going home, and it was just our kind of our IT practice member is based in Gala, where I am today, and
yeah,
where I'm kind of generally based, and it was just David, we'll need to get everyone just take the machine home, right? And he's like, yep. And everyone was told to take, if you've got a desktop, take that home. If you've got a laptop, take it home.
yeah,
And it was a kind of we'll get through this, and no one was furloughed. If anything, we were hugely busy,
yeah,
and we took on people during COVID, and it was only when things opened up that you met them, and he's like, "Oh, you're much taller than I thought you were going to be," because this is the way in
yeah,
which you're
yeah,
interacting, and so yeah, it's very much as Doug says, a huge silver lining, and then everyone kind of got used to the new normal together, and the new normal became, it's very much how we kind of manage the practice across the locations, and with having acquired and kind of taken on DBP in Fife, then that's their kind of coming into that as well, and that
Yeah.
really kind of helps the understanding of everyone, being able to show them this is how it works. So
It's quite an interesting approach when Doug said just now the almost your new datum, isn't it? Where you can just wipe the slate clean. So whilst the businesses are now merging, you can say actually forget the past. Let's just clean slate, line in the sand. Here we go. This is the way we. And that's actually, as you said, silver lining. Call it what you will, but it's actually probably hugely helped you, hasn't it?
yeah, and it's very much then when you come back to the kind of the original question about, okay, tell us about the directors and the timeline and stuff like that. It's kind
Yeah.
of starting now is in 2020 was new, but equally we are absolutely drawing on all the past, and that kind of the working methods, as much as
Yeah.
we're on this platform every day and stuff with people. You still do draw to, okay, we need to get people in the room and work together and work side by side at desks, and how do we travel between the offices, and so that young people can learn from kind of experienced guys and things. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely is a kind of a
Do
new
you
start, but
you
an
mentioned
old.
youngsters then? Do you bring the part ones and alike up through the ranks? Are you actively engaging with the youngsters to help them come through? Is that part of your business model?
Yeah, but they're quite strong on that actually.
Yeah.
They're also quite strong on other pathways. So we, whilst me and Gavin and some of the others in the business did follow the traditional university part one, part two, etc. path, we are more and more seeing that other pathways have value too. So like graduate apprenticeships, for example,
Yeah.
where people were working part time with us and studying part time, um, and just trying to lower the barrier for entry, which doesn't actually mean lowering your standards. We're finding that some of these people, almost because it's self-selected by almost by definition, they are going the ones who want to do graduate apprenticeships are likely to be empowered and kind of keen and hungry, if you like. So
Yeah.
we're really keen to support that. We regularly bring in work experience. I mean, it's almost to the point where we at any given time probably have a work experience person, and that's how much
Okay.
work experience we do.
That's really good.
Um, and there's an element, there's a lot of reasons why we behave like that. But uh, from my personal perspective, it's a kind of is a little bit of a paying it forward thing. I do, although profession architecture and professions, historically have been in sort of a middle class affair.
Hmm.
I originally don't come from that background. I had to overcome some of that to get where I am now, and so I'd quite like to make it easier for folk who maybe don't come from that background.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
all
and I think
credit to you. All
other.
credit to you for doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the other thing for me within it is, when I was kind of at high school and stuff, I did in my last year, I would go and work in a drawing office in a builder's company
Okay.
once a week,
Yep.
and that was my kind of introduction into kind of getting into architecture and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people, in that time period of when we were to uni to now, the kind of brain drain and kind of everyone leaving kind of rural environments to go to the city, and kind of all the talent going with it,
Yeah.
is very much a kind of still an issue in terms of kind of recruiting people to kind of more rural locations. So by working with young people, while they're still here at school, and they can see, oh wow, there's a business here that is, working nationally and got
Yeah.
loads of ambition and are supporting me to go to uni and come back and all this kind of stuff, is very much a kind of, you're trying to, whether it comes off every time, it is not really important. It's kind of giving people the kind of taste and saying, yeah, okay, they might come back, or they might go and off and have a great career somewhere else, but at least they remember, the kind of working in rural environments and stuff.
Yeah.
And so we've had one guy in the office who he started doing technician, a kind of course at Napier, and basically he then went on to become an architect and stuff. So it's
Okay.
it's yeah, it's again coming back to the kind of caring about people in place.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it can lead to, if you like.
So what's the kind of overall team setup now then? I think you mentioned earlier, Doug, at one point you were at 28 staff. How's that how's that kind of, now the businesses have merged, how's the setup of the business?
I, I think it is 28 at the moment.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I always like go and look at our own website just to kind of make sure, but it's because that's partly because as the fourth practice came in towards
yes,
the end of 2024, and and there's a mixture across the different offices, the different qualifications, different backgrounds, and again, this sort of collaboration piece across all those. If say someone in Gala Shields gets a project that has could benefit from the speciality of someone who's based in Fife, then that's what happens.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, I think bringing in the Fife guys has been interesting in that a lot of when we were talking about COVID and what happened during COVID and so on. So that was before they came in. So they weren't part of that sort of shared experience.
yeah,
Obviously, they had their own experience of going through COVID, but that whole bonding experience, if you like, that the other three people from the other three practices shared. Um, so we're so we're kind of redoing it in a way, but in a more sort of deliberate way. Like we're sort of saying
yeah,
this is really beneficial. Believe us,
mhm,
please.
yeah,
And they are experiencing that and benefiting from it. But it's also interesting to sort of reflect on what this journey that we've been on and are continuing to go on sort of represents for, because I think there's to some extent a generational thing going on here.
mhm,
Um, so there's a lot of people, a lot of practices, essentially from loosely speaking the generation above us, um, they're who are looking to retire.
yeah,
And it's those are the practices that apart from the one that was previously my practice, all of the other practices, that's what we're looking at. And these guys are like, they've had their career, they've built a practice, they're proud of it, they have staff,
yeah,
they have a certain market presence, and they're, understandably that needs to come to an end at some point for them personally, but they have to consider whether what that looks like, and whether that's means the business ends, whether someone within their business is maybe capable of taking it on.
yeah,
Employee ownership is also another reason why employee ownership's becoming more popular, although that still requires someone to lead what is left behind.
yeah,
Um, so what we were finding in each of these cases is that it was very appealing to the outgoing retiring partners to sort of have their practice join this larger grouping of
yeah,
practices, which becomes CSY, because it meant that they're everything they'd worked for. And it's not, as I said before, it's not just about being able to point at nice pictures on the wall of nice picture drawings. Not that I'm diminishing the importance of that. That's what we do.
yeah,
Um, but in terms of a sort of more sentimental legacy thing, actually, they tend to be more interested in their staff,
okay,
and they tend to be more interested in the kind of presence they have in their part of the market, whether that's geographical or based on a speciality.
yeah,
So they have responded really well to this idea of, well, let's go in with these, let's become part of this bigger thing.
that's really good.
And
Yeah,
and in the case of the Fife DBP, the the partners haven't actually retired just yet. So we've done this acquisition, and they're staying for a few years to help us to help that transition, and that's been really good because we're benefiting from all of their years and years of experience and
yeah.
and connections and so on, and it's helping that transition.
Yeah,
With
and
regard
it's
to, sorry, yeah, go on, Gavin.
sorry, no. I know it was just and kind of comparing the first succession plan, if you like, with now, it's kind of it's become much quicker because we've learned from the first kind of format that we did and stuff, and yeah, when you gain track record, then as Doug says, it's like, okay, these guys can see what's possible if we work together and stuff, and yeah, it's and again, hammering it at home or whatever, but coming back to the people and places, like working with new people and learning from them is, we get a kick out of that, because it's it's creating the framework and kind of see what happens. So. And so if you're kind of similarly, one of the practice we took on, the first point in 2020 was, basically it was set up in Berwick and Eyemouth, and it was called Bain Swan Architects, and the founding partner, basically his son had worked in the practice from when he left school. And when we kind of did the acquisition and Alan was kind of going to continue working with us, we kind of sat down with them and said, okay, well, what do you think we should do? Because he's a very skilled kind of talented technician. It's kind of, but you know the local area more than we do, as much as we know Berwick and Eyemouth from where we are. And he's like, well, I think we should go back to Berwick, because currently the office was in Eyemouth, and we should set up a nice office, and that's where all the work is. And so I was like, okay, Alan, let's go and do that. And then we found an architect was attracted to come in, Peter, who's now one of our kind of senior team. And it's, it's that whole thing of working with people, and if you can build trust and kind of everyone puts their shoulder behind the wheel, then it's interesting what can happen.
Are you mainly, Doug mentioned just now about different industry disciplines, if you will. Are you all mainly residential architects? Is most of your projects residentially biased?
It's I think because we're kind of generally, from as a kind of rule, if you like, more rural than rather city based.
Yeah.
It's kind of anything and everything. So it can literally be, Mrs. Jones down the road needs a window put in the wall, and it's very, very small job, to one of our projects on site at the moment is 108 houses at Upper Langley in the Scottish Borders. It's a regeneration of a 1960s kind of housing development. So,
Okay, yeah.
and we've also got a long-standing relationship with Milestone Garden Centre, which is in Newtown, and our previous director from here, he found the site for the business, and then when he retired, I became the project architect, and we've kind of expanded the garden centre over the last 13 years and stuff, and now one of our guys is the architect, and I do a kind of non-executive director role there and things. So it's and so we do one-off housing. It's kind of anything and everything, and both of us have also, from what we were saying earlier about the kind of social enterprise background, we do a lot of community work as well, which we've both got a passion for, and again, that caring thing, you can make a real difference, and it's not just the drawing kind of service. It's kind of, okay, how do we make, as Doug said before, how do we make this happen? So we've done viability studies and all this kind of stuff with local organisation groups, and Doug set up One Dalkeith as well, from his background. I don't know if you want to mention about that, Doug, as well.
So with business, I was involved in creating a development trust in Dalkeith called One Dalkeith, and so that's a kind of community owned, community led organisation, but it's a delivery vehicle for so the community can take a kind of empowered, proactive stance about making things better. So often, but not always, that a development trust has a community facility. It provides a community facility. So that's what One Dalkeith has done. And it's in the town centre, so it's contributing to town centre regeneration. Now that was me doing that on a voluntary capacity, but because I lived there and I wanted to see, and I could see that my skill set could be deployed in that way. So it was a genuine endeavour. But what I've learned from that is that has massively enhanced my understanding of what it's like to be the client, on especially on community projects. So I've got that experience, and others have various experience of working with community projects. And then you add to that, say, we've got a conservation specialist, we've got an energy specialist. So just as a sort of hypothetical project, although there are real projects that are like where this is the case. A development trust or some sort of community organisation wants to take on an existing building. That's quite a typical scenario. Maybe it's being transferred from the council, or maybe it's an old church or something. So often it actually does have a conservation element to it, and often it actually does have a more and more projects across all sectors have a retrofit energy efficiency element as well.
Yeah.
So we're quite honestly and earnestly able to explain to that client all of those backgrounds, and say that we genuinely believe that having multiple specialisms, that it's where they overlap. It's where you have more than like a Venn diagram. If you have multiple specialities on the same project, that's where we have something to offer, which is not, I dare say, is not unique, but it's special that we're able to do all of those things. And those are the ones where the magic kind of happens, because you're going to go. We're talking about funding, say, sometimes we'll be able to help, especially if it's a community client, actually help them get the funding to do the enabling work, because we've done so many of these projects, and because I've been the client in these situations. I can say, we can say, right, if you go for this fund, it might help you. In fact, it might even pay for some professionals. But I'm busy saying that. Meanwhile, the conservation guy comes along and goes, "Oh no, but you could actually get this other funding that does that." And again, where those things overlap is where the magic happens. So it's like a lot of what we have to say for ourselves. It's not a simple, clear story. It's all about the bringing together of all of these things, and whether that's about geographical patches, or it's about different sort of professional backgrounds or specialisms coming together. That's where the interest happens, and we push forward, and we try to make projects happen. And we don't just sort of passively sit back and wait for oh, can you just draw me that, which is we're much more proactive and much more keen to help because we care.
Yeah, so an example of that is our Melrose Football Club project that we've been working on recently, which, we kind of from the start, it was through our conservation background with Fraser, we're able to get funding, to get fees, to take it through to the kind of development stages, and because there was a kind of a building of interest as part of the site and stuff like this. And then, kind of helping them in the background in terms of our experience with the kind of community funding elements, and knowing people at the council and the kind of funds that are available, how you join those dots and stuff. So that's, hopefully going to go on site in the next few months. So it's kind of, it's a rewarding one when you're, again, when it's for a community, for a football club that's really growing and stuff like that. It's,
What is that? That's a new stand and a new...
It's new changing rooms and community kind of cafe. So it's a multi-purpose kind of space, and then changing facilities. So the club, so Melrose is it's in the Scottish Borders, and it's traditionally a rugby town. It's the town that invented rugby sevens. But in recent years, the football club has been kind of going great guns, and it's got a huge girls membership and stuff like this. And it's a real kind of community-based club. So it's but it's because of that kind of rugby background, it's never had its kind of own changing rooms and stuff like that. It's kind of used other facilities and stuff. So, but because it's been growing, it's kind of, this project has come out of that. And then you as Doug says, when you can do more than drawings. It's not really a catchphrase as much as we kind of refer to it, that greater than the sum of the parts is. It is a belief, system. It is how you make things happen. If you can kind of see the kind of dots, if you like, and join them up, and that's where Doug and I work together really well, is because we can bounce off each other. We've got different strengths and equally valid, and it's when you put them both together, then it's like, oh, okay, we've just gone from just continual growth from since we started. So it's kind of yeah, it's
Well, you're clearly doing something. Your USP is clearly working for you, isn't it? You're creating a one-stop shop, aren't you? Ultimately, does that lead then on to what about for these projects you mentioned? You have, you can call upon a conservation architect or whatever it may be within the team. What about the likes of then going further afield to utilizing an in-house planner or a structural engineer? Is that part of your grand plan as well to bring those in board?
Well, what we have already done, in addition to what we've been talking about, is with the Fife edition of the Fife practice, they brought with it some interior designers,
Okay.
and it brought with it a huge amount of work in hospitality.
Yeah.
So it's another sector, which we had previously had some experience of, but they very much bring a weighty experience and huge amount of work doing that.
Yeah.
and very well renowned in terms of what they do as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and that has given us a taste for like the principle of greater than the sum of its parts, extending beyond straightforward architecture. Within the employee ownership model, we have these regular to round table discussions, through those we establish some aims for the business for moving forward.
Yeah.
One of them is about personal satisfaction for the people who work in the business. Basically, crudely, it's a nice place to work.
Yeah.
Geographical expansion was another one, and diversity of service was another one. So through that thinking about diversity of service, initially what we were thinking about is some of the things we've just been talking about. Like, we don't just do drawings; we try and make something happen.
Yeah.
We can do like viability studies on developments. We can do the getting funding. We can do a range of different things, which are sort of an expansion, if you like, of what an architect conventionally might be thought to do. But the natural extension of that would be to then expand it beyond that and into adjacent disciplines.
Yeah.
So, which we've already done with the interior designers, and so we are considering. At this point in time, we are considering whether it's a good idea to take that further, and because if we did, it would be about delivering for the clients.
Yeah.
Basically, it'd be about being able to say to the clients, "You come to us, we've got you sorted."
And it's the kind of you're almost like a kind of a construction curator, if you like.
Yeah.
It's and that's, I think, if you're kind of talking about the profession, that's a little bit of a skill that's kind of been lost over time, and all these other professions pop up over the years and the decades, and it's kind of about saying we need to kind of remember that architectural training is a hugely valuable exercise, and it does lead to kind of a basis in creative thinking that no other discipline can compete with. I mean, that's what I think anyway. So it's but then it's taking the elements of we have close working relationships with all the consultants we work with. It's again coming back to where we start. Coming back to our friendship. It's like you spend a lot of time working, so why would you not like to enjoy working with people not only by your side in the office, but who other consultants you engage with and stuff. So yeah, and that shortcuts time in terms of work and all that kind of stuff, because you know how each other works and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a kind of an ethos that kind of goes through everything, really.
Well, to have that, it's very apparent for me as an outsider looking in. The team ethos that you've got, you two being lifelong friends, pretty much, and that, as me with my close mates, friendship trumps anything in my eyes, basically. And you're able to have your business built around that friendship, and you will naturally, as Doug said earlier, because you're such good friends and you trust each other implicitly, then that kind of leads for a very good future for the business and all of your colleagues, and the passion that you have for the business shines through, and that's going to attract others, and that's where the success is clearly coming from, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's to the point that actually one of our other very close friends as well, has ended up working for the practice, and he's our conservation architect.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
there genuinely is days when you come in and you are pinching yourself, going, "We talked about this. I remember when I
yeah,
didn't have grey in my beard that
yeah,
this would be amazing if we all worked together and working on these amazing projects." And then you're sitting there doing it, and go, this is
yeah,
this is special in terms of the people first.
yeah,
It's kind of, then you can look at the project and go, well, that's quite exciting as well. So it's
yeah.
but yeah, working together is very rewarding.
It's not I've been doing this for nearly 30 years, basically talking to architects and what have you. This is an unusual, in a really good way, an unusual scenario, the way that the business is set up, and it's really good to hear. Hopefully others will follow, because as you say, you're clearly very passionate about the world of architecture and bringing others through the unconventional routes of the apprenticeship route and all the rest of it. You're ticking every single box in a really positive way, and that's good.
We're trying, certainly.
Yeah. So projects then at the moment. You mentioned the changing room facility at the football. What other standout projects do you have working on at the moment that are worthy of talking about?
So yeah, the one Upper Langleys one that we mentioned earlier as well. That's the first phase of the 108 houses. There is one that so we've got quite a strong background in affordable housing.
Hmm.
The founding partner, Duncan Cameron, he was one of the kind of founding people in Yuill Housing Association, which is the kind of biggest RSL in the Scottish Borders. And so yeah, it's one of our specialisms, if you like, is affordable housing. So seeing that again, that's been running for a while. So started the feasibility study in 2017 with community consultation and all this kind of stuff, and then kind of COVID got in the way, and exorbitant construction prices, as everybody
Yeah,
saw when kind of materials started becoming available again,
yeah,
kind of stunted the beginning of the project. But that's now in the park, and that's the first phase is almost finished. Hopefully, rolling into the second, and it's one where it's been the development again of that kind of all of that experience, collective experience, to try and make an affordable housing product that is more than just an affordable house. Is drawing
yeah,
on kind of as much as their constraints, but it's kind of developing a type that if you were to dial up the material cost or whatever, then you could quite easily put that in the centre of Edinburgh and go, yeah, that's a very expensive house. So
yeah.
that one has been a kind of very exciting one that we've been working on. Um, yeah, and what else have we been working on? There's I think yeah. I can't actually say what the name of the I can't actually say what the project's for, but
Yeah.
there's one large public project that we're just about to start planning on, which is a kind of unique type, and it's a kind of large public building, which everyone that's working on it is kind of quite excited about the direction of travel, because of the use of the building. You have to be kind of quite considered as to so that's not very good for kind of
Is
information
that?
on it, but it's we'll share it with you when it comes
I
to
was going
kind
to
of, it
say, yeah.
becomes
Is it
public. Yeah,
is it one down the line you'll be able to share? And
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
the we Doug and I were talking for 2 minutes earlier. The level of work you've got, the for historic portfolio of projects and everything. This hand select a few of those to get across to share, most definitely, because I'd like to share
Yeah,
as much as I can for you.
yeah, and the other one, I think another one which was just smaller scale, but it's kind of the difference it can make is Cafe Colton on the top of Colton Hill in Edinburgh. We kind of helped out within our interiors guys at DBP. They revamped the cafe up there, and it's amazing kind of space.
Yeah,
And our kind of learning from them, seeing the kind of the skill that they have and kind of selection of kind of layouts, and optimizing bums on seats, and but whilst creating a great space is it's really interesting.
so the clear passion and drive that you both have for the business is very apparent, but uh, Oh, something's happened there, Gavin. The
I don't know if it was me that time because I've just
So
it's yeah
might be me this time.
yeah
I was muted briefly, so is that
yeah the muffled noise came back. But anyway, I
okay?
can. I was going to say, how do you see the future now? Then the next kind of 5-year plan, 10-year plan for you.
um,
$1 million
so
question, yeah.
yeah. I mean, the interiors work is kind of becoming hugely busy all of a sudden because there's been legislation, particularly in Scotland, in relation to kind of pubcos and stuff through Parliament that has meant that there's a whole load of spend that is now happening. So I think really developing the amazing foundation that the guys from originally DBP have built there is something that we absolutely want to cement. And yeah, kind of expand the offering within that. We're also kind of doing some work currently at Celtic Park, so that's kind of working on their executive suites with them, and that's yeah. I think what we can learn from that, the interior background as well, is the working method is so fast
Yeah,
because it's kind of you've got to turn it round because you can't have this thing shut for weeks on end. So we've developed a building information management work system through a KTP project that Douglas led with Napier. And it's kind of, okay, let's, again, greater the sum of the parts. What can we learn from how they produce information that means that it improves the service across the practice?
mm,
Certainly expanding the conservation work as well with Fraser. That's another thing that we want to do as well. Obviously, I don't know whether it'll come to pass, but a lot of people talk about how in 20 years' time there'll be no new builds being built. I'm not sure if that's the case, but it's kind of, there'll be a lot of retrofit and kind of working with traditional structures and stuff. So that's
yeah.
certainly something we're looking to work on as well.
Well, based on your history of what is now 5 years, but 40 years prior to that, basically, it sounds you there's only good things going to happen for the business, I would say, and with the leadership team that you have in place already, it sounds nothing but positive and a really lovely environment to work in, basically, I would say. So all
No,
credit
no,
to you both.
Well,
no,
thank you.
thank you. Yeah, touch wood on that statement as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, there
no,
you go. Yeah,
yeah.
there you go.
um, well, look, I think we've been talking for 50 minutes. It's been brilliant to have met you both and to share your stories. As you say, I summarised in 30 seconds what's kind of taken 50 minutes to explain. So you're quite right in the in depth of the story, and it's actually helping others to now understand when they get to watch this the history and the background of who you are and how the business came to be where it is today, and that's makes for an interesting watch. This will go live Thursday of next week, just so you know.
Okay.
And I'll tag you in on LinkedIn. It goes into Architecture Vogue next week, and then on YouTube, on Spotify, LinkedIn, Instagram. So lots
Right.
of places. So many thousands of people will get to see us next week. So there we are.
Brilliant.
Keep an eye out.
Right. Okay.
Just
No, thanks very much for inviting us on. That was great, and we'll make sure and we can share the projects information that we mentioned and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
obviously share all the stuff that you're doing as well. It's great.
yeah. No, thank you. Well, thank you, gents.